Will you join me in a few moments of prayer? Great and wonderful God, we come to you this morning, your grateful people, seeking to capture some of the spirit of the holidays, seeking to get ready for the coming of the Nativity into our lives, into our hearts, into our homes. So this morning, O God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of each heart here be pleasing to you, our rock and our salvation. Amen. Anybody here like to be scared out of their wits? I guess that means yes. Anybody here like a good ghost story? Anybody here like to be scared at Christmas time? Anybody here like Christmas ghost stories? Oh. Well, how about Charles Dickens' fascination with the three goats in A Christmas Carol? You all like that one? When the one ghost shouts, "Ebenezer! Ebenezer!" Don't you just want to snuggle down a little more closer and deeper under the covers? And how about Cary Grant as Dudley in The Bishop's Wife? Don't you just chuckle along with him when he smartly observes, the only people who grow old are those who were born old in the first place? And then he looks straight at the bishop. And then there is my favorite, Clarence in It's a Wonderful Life, when he kind of stumbles and bumbles through life, except when he shows George what life would really be like if he had never been born. Clarence observes in a very happy fashion every time a bell rings, another one got its wings. These three are some of the best loved tales in holiday literature, heck, in literature for that matter. We seem to be enthralled, season in, season out, with ghost stories at Christmas. That's part of our tradition. Now, the charm of tradition during the holidays is powerfully strong. People who hate snow dream of a white Christmas. I sat with a bunch of die-hard Southern Californians last Thursday who fled everything about 4 seasons a year life long ago, and we all religiously sang Irving Berlin's White Christmas. People who don't have much time for regular worship are all of a sudden swept into the sanctuary to experience the tradition found here. People who ordinarily squeeze every nickel twice before they spend it on anyone but themselves hear the Salvation Army bell ringer and drop a small amount in the red kettle. I love Christmas, and I do not intend to stop being romanced by all of the sounds and the smells and the sights of the season. As Francis Wade puts it, tradition is a good thing, a piece of truth, but it is not the very big piece. Tradition is not anywhere near the whole story of what God is doing among us. Tradition cannot begin to express what is really going on. Let's look at the story that Lindsay just read about John the Baptizer and reflect on its insight about traditions. John's preaching by the Jordan had really agitated the populace. To try to figure him out, some religious folks even described him like others who came before him who seemed like him. They pointed out tradition says the baptizer might be Elijah, or he could even be the anointed one of God, the Messiah. You see, Elijah was carried up into heaven in a chariot. He didn't really die, so he could be available to make another appearance at the end of the world. And when asked, John responded, "I am outside of your boxes. God is doing something way outside of your boxes, of your traditions. And there is one who is coming after me, whose very presence will put all of your little boxes, as meaningful as they are, to ashes." The reason we get so comfortable with tradition, so comforted by it, is that many times we misperceive that if we can wrap up all the truth in all of our beautiful little packages, our tradition, then we can certainly isolate the truth and thereby know it. Listen to Francis Wade again. The traditions of Christmas, the star and the manger and the wise men and the shepherds and Mary and Joseph, and yes, even the baby Jesus, are just tiny little pieces of what God is doing. The action of God is vast and sweeping. The Spirit of God at work in Advent and Christmas is far more than our traditions can embrace. For one thing, traditions are predictable. The Spirit is not. Traditions are comforting. That is why we keep coming back to them. The action of God is disturbing. Traditions tend to affirm things that we like about ourselves. But the Spirit is always challenging and changing our lives, sometimes even things that we like best. Tradition has a way of being isolated from life. That's the reason the great traditions of Christmas that seem so compelling in December often make little differences in our lives in January. But the Spirit is all about the connectedness of life. One little piece to the other. One human being to the other. One exercise in faith to the other. One relationship to the other. We embrace our traditions because they make us feel good, all warm and fuzzy and gooey inside. But our traditions really don't know how to speak the truth of the Spirit. Tradition tells us about the Magi, but it doesn't speak to those who bully and abuse the innocent, like Herod killing the babies when asked the question. Tradition lets us know what the angel said to the shepherds in the field, "Fear not," but really doesn't know what the same angels might say to gang members, violently controlling their turf and pavement of city streets. Tradition might romantically describe the flight to Egypt, but it is mum when the stories roll out about how refugees stumble back and forth across the world homeless, on the run from their own governments. Tradition helps to hide us from reality and complexity. It furthers simplicity and rigidity. Tradition fosters happiness which is fun and comforting and enjoyable. The Spirit leads us to joy, which is deep and sustaining and difficult. As we walk down the long pathways of tradition during this festive season, we carry beautifully made cartons of tradition. One sees, first of all, the beautiful manger scenes in the narthex with Joseph and Mary and Jesus, and even the winsome picture of the church mouse at the floorboard. If you haven't seen that, you need to look for it. We can now have George Bailey and Clarence the Angel on video to comfortably be entertained in the softness of our own homes. We hear beautiful music of the season, whatever our taste and idea of tradition dictates, whenever we want it. I have a beautiful new CD on the CD player in my car. And when I'm whipping through South Bay traffic, sometimes not whipping quite so through, I just sit back and listen to my beautiful music. We can adore the beautiful boxes conveying evergreens and Hanukkah and Santa Claus and the Christmas ham and laughter and gifts and fun. As we place them in positions of honor, we might ask God to bless them and us with truth and grace and light, even enter into them, so that we might contain God's Spirit as well. But you know, we probably get the answer that the baptizer and Jesus both gave to the throngs, the masses. God's Spirit, God's truth, will not be contained by those beautiful little packages, by even the traditions we so honor. God's Spirit is bigger than that. Speaking of tradition, I just about wrecked the tradition. Now that I have said all of that, I want you to know that I'm going to go on loving and enjoying these annual rituals. And as I do that, I want to continually hear the voice of the baptizer, even the voice of Jesus whispering, even shouting at times to me, telling me that these beautiful packages are just that. If I want to know the truth, to experience God's Spirit, I will have to take the plunge and go deeper. Much, much deeper. It is a great day to be alive. Thanks be to God. Amen.